Hey, this is Molly. Before I introduce you to today's guest, I'm thrilled to tell you about an unbelievable event on May 5th that I am super excited to be a part of. Broadcast live from Atlanta to 100,000 people around the globe, LeaderCast Live is the largest one-day leadership event in the world. Join me and an incredible lineup: Tyler Perry, Andy Stanley, Daniel Pink, and Susie Welch, just to name a few. Again, it's on May 5th, and it's a day of leadership development. To learn more about how you and your team can attend or host a live simulcast, visit leadercast.com. Welcome to Game Changers with Molly Fletcher, where we take you behind the scenes with peak performers to learn what makes them tick and discover how you can apply their lessons to your life. I'm your host, Molly Fletcher. Today's guest has helped transform the lives of countless children in underserved communities throughout his innovative approach to education. Mike Feinberg is co-founder of the Kipp, Knowledge is Power program, a national network of college prep public charter schools in underserved communities. After graduating from the University of Pennsylvania, Mike joined Teach for America as a fifth grade bilingual teacher in Houston, Texas, before co-founding Kipp. Today, Kipp is a network of 200 high-performing public schools around the nation, serving 80,000 children. To date, more than 90% of the Kippsters graduate high school, and more than 80% have gone on to college. Mike and his co-founder, David Levin, were named to the list of America's Best Leaders by U.S. News and World Report and received the Presidential Citizens Medal. Their story is captured in the book, Work Hard, Be Nice. Kipp has been featured on the Oprah Winfrey Show, CBS 60 Minutes, ABC World News Tonight, and the New York Times. Mike joins us today to talk about the vision behind Kipp, how to turn purpose into action, and the role that grit plays in our chances for success. Follow Mike on Twitter at KippBigDog. Thanks for joining us today, Mike. So for our listeners who may not know about Kipp, can you just quickly tell them a little bit about the mission and the vision of Kipp?
Sure. Kipp stands for the Knowledge is Power program, and that program started back in 1994 when myself and Dave Levin, a fellow Teach for America teacher in Houston, Texas, with me, we got frustrated as upper elementary teachers at what our kids were not able to do to succeed when they left us and went off to middle school and high school. And one night in late 1993, we kind of brainstormed what it would take to really make a transformative impact on the lives of our kids. And we stayed up all night, poured out our feelings of failure and frustration onto the computer screen, listened to Octung Baby, repeat play. And by about 5 o'clock in the morning, we had the Knowledge is Power program, Kipp, on the computer screen, which was just a fifth grade program at the time. We were thinking, what can we do as fifth grade teachers to truly make a difference in our kids' lives? So we motivated fifth graders to come to school from 7:30 to 5 o'clock during the week, for 4 hours on Saturdays, for an extra month in the summer, give our kids about 2 hours of extra homework a night. And we had to convince the district in Houston to let us do this, which we finally did. You can imagine with all that time in school, we turned them into little baby Einsteins,
Sure.
Kids, but there was still no good middle school to send the kids to. So we went back at the end of that first year in the spring of 95 and asked if we could turn our program to a school, still starting with fifth grade, but now keeping the kids through eighth grade, those turbulent, crazy years of high school. And at first, the district, again, wasn't sure if they were going to let us do it or not. And we just had to kind of keep pushing, and we eventually got an opportunity to do this in the South Bronx, in New York, as well as in Houston. And so in 1995, Dave Levin started Kipp Academy in the Bronx, and I started Kipp Academy in Houston, both with fifth grade, but now we could keep it for 4 years, growing it to fifth to eighth grade. Along the way, we became public charter schools to protect the extra freedoms we wanted to have over calendar and college prep curriculum and hiring the teachers we want to have. And then in 2000, we partnered with Don Doris Fisher, the founders of the Gap and Old Navy, to train other great teachers on how to learn what we've done to create these, to create Kipp schools in their communities, which is why there's now 200 Kipp schools in 20 states and DC serving 80,000 kids, mainly low income.
Golly, that is just awesome, awesome, awesome.
Thank you.
How did you, you talked about how you scaled. How did you go from, you know what I mean, what you just described, right, to what you just ended with, which is just magnificent scale over time, certainly, which is allowing you to make even a bigger impact. And I know you have a vision to continue to scale it, I'm sure. Tell me how you scaled this.
Well, I think as I talk to young education entrepreneurs around the country, the first thing I remind them is that while we've achieved a lot of scale, remind them this hasn't been like a 5-year pathway or a 10-year pathway. This has been a 22-year pathway, and there really was no scale for the first 6 to 7 years. So we spent a lot of time not thinking about scaling, just thinking about how to come closer to perfect our model even more, which is after 22 years, it's still a work in progress. But in those first 6 or 7 years, we did a lot. The schools kept getting better and better until eventually they became the top performing schools in Houston, New York, respectively. Then when we did start to figure out how to replicate, we made the right bet on leadership. Of the 101 things that a school has to get right, our premise is that the critical path is the principal, the school leader, and that things flow from there, good or bad. Mm-hmm. And so that became our singular focus as we got going, was we were going to find great teachers and train them for a whole year on how to become great school leaders.
Wow. Okay. And what role has purpose, right? I would imagine that has driven your vision, your growth, and success, right? What role has purpose played in your life, and what role does it play, at Kipp?
It's a singular. I mean, it's a pretty central focus. Everyone at Kipp, when you think about purpose, when we go to bed at night and when we wake up in the morning, we know why we're on the planet. And I think that is, this has not been a sprint, it's been a marathon, and it's been a very difficult one over the years. So, having a goal of working in underserved communities and closing the ultimate achievement gap of having our kids go to and through college at the same rates as everyone else, which means our kids in our communities are going to and through college at normal rates of 8 to 10%. And in top quartile income communities, that rate's more like 80%. So that's a lot of ground to make up.
Right.
It's not easy, and there's been a lot of times that have been really difficult, but that purpose, that mission, I think is both what keeps us going over the long term, and it's also what attracts other people to join us and to be able to scale up with the talent. And I think more than anything else, people are attracted to the mission and that purpose, as you describe it brings to people's lives.
Well, and I would imagine along the way you ran into roadblocks trying to get, right? I mean, so tell me maybe what some of those were. I mean, we all fail in life, and I'm a big believer that, if our purpose is strong enough, if our beliefs around our purpose are strong enough, we can in many ways, that helps us get over those speed bumps. Tell me a little bit about how that.
So the whole Fisher Fellowship training program we put together to train educators to become school leaders. As I tell them annually, our new every year as we train a new cohort, is that Dave and I and others put together this training program so people could learn from our 1,000 mistakes, so they only would make 500.
Nice.
There's everyone's going to make mistakes, everyone's going to fail, but hopefully we can learn from others and not fail quite as brilliantly. Dave and I were good in lots of ways early on. We also were incredibly lucky. We failed in about every aspect of this you could fail. We started as horrible teachers, but over time we worked hard to become really good teachers. When we didn't have any training to become principals, to become leaders and managers of others. So early on, let's just say that we managed and led our way out of a lot of friendships. as we were very, very bad at it.
Okay.
But we went to the School of Hard Knocks, where I think we both got doctorates, and we learned over time. And because all those mistakes, there were some doozies, but nothing ever killed us. So over time, it just made us wiser, and over time, we became better managers and leaders as a result. Beyond that, I think it's where you are in Atlanta, where I am in Houston, where the Kipp regions are all over the country. We are blessed with having just amazing board members who serve on these nonprofit 501c3 boards. Neither Dave or I were not well versed and trained in board governance, in financial management, in district operations, and those all things had to be learned on the fly as well. Sometimes with making crazy mistakes, but more often than not with board members who volunteered their time to tutor us and help us. Sean Hurwitz, my longtime board chair in Houston, when we were becoming our own charter, he insisted I leave the school, leave the kids, and sit in his office every Tuesday afternoon for 2 to 3 hours to work on the charter and basically learn how to run a business.
Wow.
That's basically. So I went to the Hurwitz School of Management and Business.
So you did that, though. You listened to him and you did it.
I did that.
Got it.
I did that.
Okay.
And I learned a lot in the process.
So if you live in Atlanta, as an example, or if you live in a particular city and they're listening to this and they're like, wow, I would love my child, obviously, to attend a Kipp school. How does that work? How does that happen?
So all of our schools are charter schools, which are public schools that are outside the traditional school district system. Basically, in a lot of the states, nonprofit organizations, in some states for-profits as well, but mostly it's nonprofit organizations can apply to the state for the honor and privilege of running a public school. And then you get and then your nonprofit gets public dollars from the state to actually run this school. And the rules vary a little bit state to state, but in general, charter schools as public schools that are open enrollment, so there's no testing to get in.
Okay.
And it's first come, first serve, unless more kids and families want to come, there's space available, in which case you have to do a lottery. And where I am, for example, in Houston, we've grown to 26 schools serving nearly 14,000 kids. And we've grown to that scale, and we continue to grow a lot because we have, as of last year, we had a 12,000 child wait list to come to our schools.
Oh my gosh.
Which is what keeps me up at night. So anyone out there who thinks that parents in low-income communities do not care and don't want the kids to get a great education, you have to take one look at our collective wait list in some of these cities and realizing that the American dream we talk about is really a parent dream. And just about every single parent wants their kids to have a better life than them, and every single parent realizes that ticket to a better life is through education.
So what can me and our listeners do to support you in this mission, right? To take those 12,000 kids and families and put them into a school sooner than later.
Yeah. Oh, we need all. There's a famous last question. We need lots of help in all kinds of ways. I mean, our mission is to get more kids to go to and through college from underserved communities. And our vision is to do that at scale. So not only are we doing a good job with our kids, but we help push the rest of the public school system to start to realize they're in a competitive marketplace now called public education, and they're going to get better as well as they realize that they've got customers who they have to serve well. And so that's why we need to continue to aggressively grow, both to directly serve kids, but to push all of our public school systems to be accountable to something more important than state and federal government, and that is being accountable to the kids and their parents as their customers.
Wow.
So with that said, so whether it's serving on our local boards, raising, help contributing with funds, volunteering in the schools, we are in 30 plus communities around the country. We're basically building brand new school districts from scratch. The goal is just to have district remain an 8-letter word, not have it turn into a 4-letter word, which is easier said than done.
Sure.
So it's just how you get bigger and not let some crazy bureaucracy take it over. It starts with our great board members, so that's why volunteering on the board is super helpful. To have to have volunteer board members who are there for the mission and to help the schools is great. But then to get directly involved in the schools, we need all the help we can get.
Wow, and it's kipp.org is the website.
Kipp.org, and if you look on there, look on that website of kipp.org, you can easily look by region and search by school, and you can get contact information for who is the executive director of each of our regions around the country.
Wow. Well, it is. And it's just absolutely awesome what you've done. My mother was a speech pathologist in an inner city school in Michigan, and, I just have so much respect for what you do and what you've built. Tell me this, the Kipp slogan is cool. I love it. It's simple, right? Work hard and be nice. Tell me a little bit about why you chose those two things and just to keep it so clean and tight.
Yeah. First off, we've always been big believers in keep it simple. I think that's our natural rhythm. And we learned that, work hard, be nice, or the classroom rules of one of our mentor teachers, Rafe Esquith, who's a fantastic elementary school teacher out in Los Angeles, California. Whether it was Rafe and Harriet Ball and others, we, like other professions, you learn how to be a great educator by standing on the shoulders of giants and learning from those who come before you. And we learned a lot from Rafe and Harriet and others. And one thing we got from Rafe was that work hard, be nice slogan, which we realized, at the end of the day, if our kids are doing those two things, life is beautiful.
Amen. I agree. Amen. Tell me this. How would you summarize your leadership philosophy?
I think a few things. One, I think in general, I don't think there's such a thing as over communication. I tell it to all the younger leaders. Actually, there is such a thing as over communication, but that's a great problem to have when you get to that point. So until you're at that point, there's no thing as over communication. Make sure you are communicating early and often with all of your people. Make sure they understand not just what to do, but the why behind it. Make sure that you balance confidence and humility. Certainly exude confidence that you know what you're doing, but also have the humility to realize that you don't have all the answers, and it's okay to ask for help, and it's actually okay to appear vulnerable to your people and let them know that you are looking for help on certain things too. Mm-hmm. Just realize that team always beats individual, and do what you can to promote not just individual success, but the success of the group and the team as a whole. Sure.
And so what are some of the character strengths that you guys emphasize at Kipp, and how have you cultivated them? I imagine there's, in addition to work hard and be nice, right? Tell me a little bit about how you infuse character into these kids and into your leaders.
Yeah, as we've learned now after 20 years doing this work, our kids that are successful going to and through college, and by the way, we're now up to half of our kids tracking from 8th grade. Wherever they go to high school, we track and support them all. We follow them into college. Half of our kids have graduated from college, which is still not the 80% we aspire to, but it is 5 to 6 times the rate of what, the 8 to 10% of what low-income kids are going to and through college around the country.
Right.
And when we look at which of half of our kids are going to and through college, it's not the top half by grades back in the day when they were 5th graders with us. It's a lot of those kids, but the common factor is really it's these character strengths. It's having the grit, having the optimism, having the self-control, having zest, and we realize that character strengths, like academic skills, need to be learned. No one is born knowing what grit is any more than they know what algebra is. And unlike algebra, you cannot turn grit or optimism or self-control into a class to teach it every Tuesdays at 2:00. But it's just like I think parents have learned. Those are life lessons that you learn over time what these character traits look like in practice. You know when there are opportunities for the kids to display them or not display them, and you seize upon those moments as teachable moments. And when the kids make good choices and show self-control and show grit and show zest, you you praise them and really highlight that choice. And when they make a bad choice, there should be consequences for bad choices, and you help them think through what they could and should have done, so the next time they're in a similar situation, they'll do better. And you focus on it and you talk about it, and you know, because what we value, we focus on.
Right. And how do you define, I mean, tell me a little bit, how do you define grit, right? It's sort of this intangible, but I'm the mother of 3 daughters, my husband and I, and to me that word is so powerful and so important for all young kids, really everybody in our world. How do you define it?
I think to me, grit is sustained effort. It's trying your best over an extended period of time. Certainly someone can display grit in any given moment or practice, but to me, true grit is when you're faced with some kind of challenge, or something that's just generally difficult, and you keep at it and you persist again and again and again, until you start to improve and get better, or get the results you're looking for, whatever the goal is. To me,
right.
That's grit.
Is that part of the mindset, Mike, in regards to sort of when you launched Kipp, right? You took the kids and you got them there early and you kept them there late and they were there on Saturdays. Tell me a little bit about that mindset, because that was obviously very different from the way that the traditional public school system works. Yeah.
Well, I think just borrowing from what, Dave and I certainly played a lot of sports growing up, and borrowing from, lots of different sports analogies. If you want to get good at something, you practice it a lot. There are no shortcuts, with another great mantra we learned from Rafe Esquith, one of our mentor teachers. And so if you want kids to get better at math and reading, don't look for a magical shortcut. Spend more time on math and reading. And in a typical school day where you're confined with 7 hours from 8 o'clock to 3 o'clock, which means only 4 to 5 hours of instruction when you take out lunch and recess and everything else, if you want to do more with math and reading, but still have plenty of time for science and history and music and art and sports, well, then you just the only solution you arrive at is you better lengthen the school day, so you have time to do, so you have your time for your cake and eat it too.
That's awesome. So tell me about, I can imagine you have a database of just incredible stories of young kids that have come through Kipp and what they've accomplished. Is there any one that just stands out to you? And if there's more than one, that's okay. But I'm just curious. I could listen to you all day tell these stories about these amazing children and what they've accomplished because of Kipp. What's one that just really stands out to you?
I get asked this question a lot, and it's hard for me to think about one kid, because every first day of 5th grade from 1994 through when I stopped teaching myself in the early 2000s, I would have all my 5th graders line up in the front parking lot of the school and run to the other end of the parking lot. And I said, run as fast as you can. We talk about the fact that when they did that, we noticed that not everyone finished at the exact same time, but everyone finished. And that was going to be our intense focus on we're all climbing a mountain to go to and through college, so that everyone can have a choice-filled life and have the freedom to do what you want to do. It doesn't mean we're all going to take the exact same route. It doesn't mean we're all going to climb at the same pace, but we're all going to get there. And so, there's certainly, I've had kids that have had enormous challenges with family situations and with immigration situations and with challenges with crime and with poverty and with hunger and with homelessness. But when you look at that's where the grit comes in. That's why I'm still doing this work. All our kids are my heroes, who are, despite difficult odds, despite knowing how hard it is to climb this mountain to and through college, they're getting to school early every morning to get at it, because they know they want a better life for themselves and their current families and their future families for generations to come.
Mm-hmm. How important, in your opinion, obviously you've got to put in the work to know the math and the science and the English, but what role does character, in your opinion, play in getting them to and through college?
To me, academics and character is a yin-yang. They're, academics without character is hollow, and character without academics is useless. You need both.
Yeah.
Just in terms of like making good decisions versus right decisions, I think I'm sure you and all the listeners can think of an example of someone in the family or a friend of the family who had the academic skills but did not succeed in college and maybe didn't succeed in life because of poor choices they made when it comes to doing the right thing or the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so and some people have more perseverance and grit than others. And we all know instinctively that character plays a big role. In fact, a simple way to think about it is when any of your listeners out there are hiring for a new position, we all want to hire smart people, but no one tells their assistant to sort through the resume stack, research everyone's ACT or SAT score from college, and hire the highest score sight unseen. Like no one does that.
Right.
I mean, again, we want smart, talented people, but we also want people who know what it means to work hard, to work on a team, to both being able to take directions and work on them and give directions. And we want people who are going to add to a positive culture in our work environment. So that's why we do interviews, and that's why we do background checks, and that's why we think carefully about who we're going to hire and not just look at someone's IQ score.
So how do business people listening, how do they better assess the level of character inside of the people that they hire?
I'm a big fan of the premise that the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior.
Me too.
And certainly, most people will put their best foot forward in an interview and with their list of references. Some people surprise you and don't.
Right.
But most people do. And I like to ask people, kind of also checking for self-awareness. Tell me about the constructive criticism they've received in whether they've been in school or in the workplace. What have they been told they need to work on, and by whom? And then it's both to hear how the candidates process what are those lessons learned and what are they doing to work on those things, and if necessary, sometimes it's a good idea to follow up with those people they talk about and to get a better sense.
Got it.
Those people think.
What role do you think? I was a sports agent for about 20 years, and so to me, sports has always been an amazing conduit to building character in young people. Yep. You work with young people Agreed. All day, every day. What role have you seen sports play in regards to character building?
Oh, I mean, there's 1,001 life lessons that come on the sports field, both in practice and games. When you talk about sportsmanship and trying your best and seeing the value of how practice leads to better performance, and teamwork, it goes on and on and on. Beyond those things, which I think are so important to me, sports, and I'll put fine arts in this category as well.
Sure.
Those are what I call the J factor of any school. It's the joy factor. God love the child that wakes up in the morning and thinks, today is geometry class. Yes. I love that kid, but there's 5 of them in the world.
Right.
Right. The average kid wakes up in the morning, and once they get out of bed, is they're gonna think, today's the basketball game. Yes. Right. Today's the musical.
Right.
Today's the band concert. Yes.
Right.
Today's the soccer tournament. And so, as much as we're focusing on high stakes testing and pushing academics, which we need to push academics with our children today, but we cannot lose track of this J factor, and we cannot lose track of the balance we want to have. And if we want our kids to be motivated to do the extra work in our classrooms, then what are we doing to provide the motivation for them to actually want to come to school and enjoy it, frankly? And that's where those extracurriculars, especially sports, play such a vital role.
And we live in a world where kids are really being pushed to win, right? To win when you're on the field, and the level of involvement from parents can be at times in some circumstances pretty intense, right? And the level of focus that we're seeing with kids in sports today, where they're locking in on a sport at such a young age. One of the things that I spend time at night worrying about, and I wake up worried about, is the gap potentially that we're creating as it relates to character in kids with sports and or fine arts. Given what you do and how you do it and what you've built, how do we as a society close this character gap that I believe is growing wider in light of this win-at-all-cost mindset?
So there's a great book, fairly new book called How to Raise an Adult by Julie Lifecott-Hames. And she puts a quote in there by Carl Jung, who says, "Nothing has a stronger influence psychologically on their environment, and especially on their children, than the unlived life of the parent." Pretty
interesting.
Deep.
Yeah.
And to me, it's a self-awareness thing. If parents stand back and can both have the self-awareness and the self-adjustment to really think critically of the way we are parenting, or as teachers, the way we're educating our children, are we doing that in their best interest or in our best interest? Hopefully a lot of times it's both best interests, but those are not always mutually exclusive. So you got to be careful with that question. It's about really thinking critically: are we as parents, as teachers, are we helping our children live the best life that they want to live, and not just do some unfulfilled hole in our soul from back in the day?
Well, you've inspired me. I have that book on my bedside table, so I'm going to hit that tonight. So thank you for that reminder.
Yep. Mike,
you have been kind with your time. We end every one of our podcasts with just sort of a really quick rapid fire. So we've got about a minute. Okay. I'm going to just fire some questions at you, and I just want you to fire them back. Your answers. You ready?
I'm ready to go.
Buckled up?
Buckled up.
Awesome. All right. One word to describe yourself.
Driven.
Biggest fear.
Failure.
Favorite book.
Sneetches.
Sneetches?
Sneetches by Dr. Seuss.
Got it. The person who has had the biggest impact on your life.
Dave Levin.
Most memorable career moment so far.
In the spring, watching our Kippsters graduate from high school and graduate from college and achieve their dreams.
Awesome. One thing people don't know about you.
I used to have a ponytail.
All right, life motto.
Work hard, be nice.
I love it. One thing you can't live without.
My family.
One thing on your bucket list.
Being the lead singer in a rock band.
Nice. Awesome. And then you'll get that ponytail back, maybe.
Exactly.
Hey, Mike, Kipp.org, Kipp.org is where we can learn a little bit more about Kipp and support Mike and David's mission. It's just a magical mission, and it's amazing what you guys have done and continue to do. Thank you so much for what you do.
Thank you for shining a light on this effort, and anything we can do to help, we're here.
Thanks, Mike. Thank you. Thanks, as always, for listening. And if you missed an episode, you can listen to previous episodes on iTunes or on mollyfletcher.com. Until next time, stay curious and be a game changer.
Drum.